Hello, everyone, and welcome to our introduction to APA style. Today, my coworker Amanda Miller is also on the call, and she'll be monitoring chat. So if you do have any questions during the APA style workshop, please feel free to put them in chat. We do ask that you remain muted just while I'm presenting, and at the end, there will be time for you to unmute yourself and ask any questions that you might have. Keep in mind this is recorded, and you also will have copies of the slides, so you can refer to those later. So a little bit about both of us first. My name is Julia Stone. I'm a reference and instruction librarian at EGCC. My email and phone are listed there on the slide. I handle a lot of our virtual services like virtual workshops and chat since I am located on the West Coast. So it's only 4 p.m. over here. And also, Amanda, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Miller. I'll be monitoring chat, so please leave any questions, comments, or concerns in the chat. I am a reference and instruction associate based at the Youngstown campus on the East Coast, but I do reference services virtually as well.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. I'm going to turn off my video just because my laptop sometimes can't handle a lot at the same time. So here we go. What is APA? So you're probably here because your professor has mentioned your paper needs to be in APA style and you need to cite your sources using APA, etc. So APA stands for the American Psychological Association, and it's the style or format that's used to cite sources within the social sciences fields. So a lot of fields use this style: psychology, sociology, social work, etc., all of those social sciences. APA style establishes standards regarding the styling and the formatting of your paper. So the headings, the page numbers, all of how the paper looks, as well as 2 types of citations that we're going to talk about today. These are in-text citations, which are those sources within the body paragraphs of your paper, and the reference citations, which are the sources at the end of your paper on the specific references page. So I find that the easiest way to get a feel for what APA is to look at a sample APA paper, and I'm going to pull up one for us now. So this is a sample APA paper from the Purdue OWL website. And Purdue OWL is like an online writing lab, and they have a lot of resources about APA citations. So this sample paper has comments on it that show us the different elements that are being used here, such as this title, which is in bold. We have our whole title page, which you can ask your professor if you need a title page. Not all professors will require this. We have our page number here in the top right. We have our name, department, the English course, the professor's name, and then the date formatted as such. So let's dive into the paper. In your intro to the paper, you have your title in bold font here centered, and then you dive right into your introductory paragraphs. Notice here, we have an in-text citation. So this is going to be pointing the reader to a certain citation at the end of the paper in our references list. So Thial said this in 2017. So we could scroll down to the very bottom of the paper and find Thial and the full citation, so we could look it up later. This is a good way to avoid plagiarism because we're giving credit to other people's ideas, and it's just a good way to keep track of where you got your information. Now let's keep scrolling down. We see more examples here of in-text citations. This is a work by Remmers and Brandenburg from 1927. We have one from Gaff and Simpson from 1994, from Darwin in 2012. So there are a lot of different sources. We have here one from the US Department of Education. So an organization could be in your in-text citation, if the organization created the content. We have some other examples, Boring et al. From 2017. So let's scroll down now to our references page, since we kind of get an idea of how it looks in the text of our paper, right? Sorry for the scrolling. Okay, here we go. Our references page. So we see here, references is in the top, bolded and centered. And in alphabetical order, we have listed out all of our citations. And every single citation listed here is also going to be included in the text of our paper. You wouldn't reference something down here that you didn't use or cite in the body paragraphs of your paper. And same goes for if you cite anything in the body paragraphs, they need to be included down here. They are like a married pair, the two of them. So we can see here some different examples of citations. This one is a journal article, and it's cited in this way. This one is a website. Notice how you had to include that web link when you're citing a website. And we see that all of these have what's called a hanging indent. And I can send a video, and I believe in the slides I have a link to a video that shows you how to format that hanging indent. It's pretty simple on Microsoft Word, and it just helps to separate the citations. So this kind of gives you an idea of what we're aiming for when we say write an APA style. But what we're going to talk about next is how to cite all of these different sources, since you can see there are very specific ways and specific things that need to be included in these citations. So let's hop back to our PowerPoint. There are basically 3 steps for creating APA citations. First, you're going to determine the type of source you're working with. This could be an ebook, a book, an article, a website, a video, a lot of different types of sources. Then you're going to create a citation for the references page. So that's that page we were just looking at. And the reason we do this first is because it gives you all the details that you then need for step 3, which is creating your in-text citation. Determining the type of source is pretty simple. We just need to know what type of source we're citing because the citations are formatted differently, and you need different pieces of information to include in your citation based on what it is that you're trying to cite. So some types of sources you might cite for your courses would be a book or ebook, an academic article or magazine article, or maybe an electronic source like an online web page, video, etc. The next few slides, we're going to go over how to cite a few common types of sources in the references page, and that's that page at the end of your paper. If you need to cite a type of source that's not reviewed in this presentation, however, we do have a link here to the Purdue OWL APA guide, and it shows a lot of different things. Like we had someone ask, how do I cite a TV episode in our last workshop? And that was something that Purdue OWL had a great example for. So if you're citing something that's a little bit rarer, I definitely recommend checking out their website. So to cite a book with one author, you're going to need several elements. First, you'll need the last name of the author, followed by their first initial and their middle initial if it's available. Then you have your year of publication in parentheses, followed by the title of the book. Notice how it's in italics. And the capitalization is a little bit wonky. We have the first letter is capitalized, and then the first letter of the subtitle is capitalized too. But the rest of them are not. So that's a little bit different than how you might be used to citing titles or writing out titles. Then if the book has an edition number, you can include that in parentheses. However, if it's the first edition, the first time that this book has been published, then you do not need to include it. Then the publisher name and the DOI if it's available. So a DOI is a digital object identifier, and it's basically a persistent link, a persistent like code to an item via the internet. And not all articles and books will have these DOIs, but if you can find one within the library database or on the library's landing pages, then you can include it. But if you can't find one, you don't see it, it's okay to not include that. So now we're going to jump over to citing a book. And I'm going to show you what this ebook looks like in our databases and where you find all this information for your citation. So here is Climbing the Literacy Ladder, small group instruction to support all readers and writers pre-K through 5. And this is in our Gale eBooks database. You can notice here that we have the full title. So that is something we need for our reference citation. We also have the author's name listed here, Beverly Tyner. So that is another piece of info we need. We need the date, the year it was published, which is 2019. Let's look at this About This Publication tab, because this should give us more information as well. Like the publisher, that's another thing that we needed. We see that it's the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development. So we'll include that. And believe that's everything that we need. We don't see an edition number and we don't see a DOI link. So from this page, we have found all the information that we need. Let's go back and see how we plug all this info in to our citation. We have Tyner, comma, B for Beverly Tyner. We have our year that we put in parentheses. Climbing the Literacy Ladder, we put that full long title with the capitalization, just that first word and the first word after the subtitle are capitalized. And then the publisher name. So it's that simple. Because we didn't have that DOI or that edition number, we just did not include those elements. When you're citing a book chapter, it's very similar to citing a book. The only differences are you're going to include the title of the chapter right before you type the title of the work. You're also going to include the word in before you put the title of the work. In addition, you're going to want to put the page range of the chapter. And I'll show you how to find that page range in an ebook. If you had the book physically in front of you, you would of course just open the book and look at which pages the chapter is on. So let's take a look back at that same book that we were at, Climbing the Literacy Ladder. We go to the table of contents, and let's say we want to cite this chapter, the research-based components, strategies, and activities. I can click on the chapter and we see that it's 26 pages long, but we don't know which pages it runs from. We do have the chapter title though, so that's something that we definitely need for our citation. The way I find it easier to find the page numbers is just to click download here. And when I download, I open up the chapter in a new tab, and this is a PDF of the chapter. And I see it starts on page 18, and then I can just scroll all the way down, and I see it ends on page 43. So now I know my page range is 18 to 43. And I have all the pieces of info that I need for citing a book chapter. You can see I plugged in my book chapter title here. I put in then the title of the work, and I put in parentheses page range 18 to 43. Notice you put PP period and then the page range. Everything else is the same as citing a book. If you have any questions so far, feel free to put them in chat, and Amanda can either answer you in chat or I can address the question live too. Next, we're going to talk about how to cite a book with two authors. The beginning of this is the same if you have two creators for any type of source. This is just how it's formatted. So the last name of the first author listed, and then you have their first two initials. Then you have your and sign, your ampersand, followed by the last name of the second author listed and their initials. Everything else here is the same. as citing a book, similar to how we looked at citing the book by Tyner before. Let's just take a look and see how I found these authors' names from the O'Reilly database. So this is a view of our O'Reilly database. Oh, it looks like it pulled it from a slightly different view. It shouldn't say start your free trial. It will be, you'll be signed into EGCC. But we can see here on the book, if I zoom in, Greg L. Stewart and Kenneth G. Brown are our authors. Because Greg was listed first, he is included first in our citation. And we have our book description. We have the table of contents. Sorry that it pulled up the wrong version. We do have the Wiley publisher is listed here, which is Wiley. And we have the date of release, which is 2014. So, and we also have third edition listed here, as well as the title. I'm going to go back to our share. And we can see that we pulled that info. Stewart, GL, because Greg Stewart was listed first. He is listed first in our citation. Then we have that 2014 year of publication, our title, and the edition formatted as such, followed by Wiley. There's no DOI for this source, and so we did not include it here. So an article in an electronic journal, this type of source is one that you'll probably be citing quite frequently. So it's good to revisit this one, perhaps when you're watching the recording or when you get the slides to this presentation. So you have your authors listed out. If you have multiple authors, you do need to list out their names as such. Always put that and symbol before the last author listed. You have your year of publication, just like with a book. APA likes to put the year of publication very early on in the citation. And then you have the title of the article. Notice that the capitalization is the same with just the first word capitalized. Then the title of the journal is in italics, and that is capitalized like how you usually capitalize titles, with all of the proper, like all of the nouns capitalized except for like little articles like of and a. And then you have the volume number, also in italics. That step is really easy to forget. You have your issue number in parentheses, followed by the page range of the article, where that article is listed in the journal. Then you will have your DOI link, and articles generally do have a DOI, not all, but most academic ones will have a DOI, and I'll show you how to pull that number and put it into this link. So let's take a look at this article together. Here is from our EBSCO databases, an article from Small Business Economics. We see our three authors listed here. Because Alan, Jared is listed first, he is listed first in our citation as well. We have our source information, the Small Business Economics. This is our journal title. We have the year of publication, 2021, the volume number 57, issue number 2, and our page range is right here, easy breezy, 705 to 719. So that is a lot of the information that we need. However, we also want to find that DOI if we can. So we keep scrolling down. Aha, we found it here, DOI, and we have this long string of numbers. So this string of numbers, you can copy and paste, and it's actually just going to go at the end of that DOI link that I had listed on the slide. So keep in mind that I just copy and paste this, and we're going to head back to our slide. And you see that I copy and pasted that long string of numbers right at the end of my doi.org link. And if I were to copy and paste this full link into my address bar, it would take us to the publisher's site of this article. So we would get, it would take us directly to Small Business Economics, this article. You can see how we plugged in all of our information here with Jared. Allen was our first one, so he's listed out first. We listed out the rest of the author's names here, the year of publication, title of article, and small business economics in italics, volume and issue, page range, DOI. Hopefully that's clear, and all that information is right there on the landing page for the article that you find in the EGCC library. So you also will probably be citing web pages or online articles. Sometimes these will be created by an organization rather than an individual author. So I'm going to show you this example of a web page from the American Library Association. In your web page citation, if it is created by an organization, you would put their name in the creator spot. If the content was created by an individual author, you would format that the same way with their last name, first two initials. For web content, we do like to include the year, month, and date of publication if possible. However, if it's not included on the web page, and not all web pages will be clear about when things are published, you can put n.d. for no date, and that is acceptable as well. You put the title of the web page in italics with that capitalization of just the first word. The site name will also be included, not in italics, and only include this if it's different from the creator or organization's name. Then you'll have your URL link to the website. Let's take a look at this website together. So this is the American Library Association website. Usually the title of the site will be in the top left, or sometimes you can find it at the bottom next to the copyright. This web page, however, is called ALA Policy Manual. The web page title will usually be in bold heading fonts. It'll be the title of that online content. And then this particular website does have a cite tool. Not all websites will have this, but we're going to take advantage of it because it's here. And we do see that we have a date of publication here. So 2010, August 17th. We can use that in our citation. In addition, I'm going to go back real quick. We do need the URL of this page, and you can just copy and paste that from the top bar because this is a publicly available website. So we just copy and paste that, and that is our URL. So websites, pretty simple as far as the information needed. You have your organization name that created that content, year, month, date. We have the title of the web page. We did not include the site name because it is the same as the organization name and we don't want to be redundant. So we did not include that, but we did include the URL, which is listed out here. To cite a YouTube or other streaming video, it's pretty similar to a website. We have, again, the year, month, and date instead of just the year. We have the last name of the person who uploaded / created the video. You put their username in brackets. If, however, the creator's name is the same as their username, you do not have to include their username in brackets. And I'll show you that in our example. Then you have the title of the video in italics with video in brackets. And then the streaming service that you found this video on. This could be like YouTube or Vimeo. And then you have the URL, the direct link to the video. We're going to look at a video from the EGCC Library and Information Commons YouTube page, and then we'll see where we got all of this information. So this is our YouTube. It's playing an ad, but this is our video. The video title is listed here, 30-minute guide to conducting research. We have the username, which is EGCC Library and Information Commons. This is our username, and it's also the name of the creator of the content. So in this example, we would not need to include our username in brackets. In addition, we have our date of upload, which is April 28th, 2021. We know that this is from YouTube, so that would be our streaming site. And then we also have our link to the video, which is in our top bar. You can also click the share button and copy and paste this link, which is just a shortened link if you want to include that. Either one is fine as long as it takes you to the video content. Now let's see where we plugged in all this information. We have our creator of the video. We did not include the username because it's the same as the creator of the video. We have our year, month, date of upload. Then we have our title of the video, YouTube, and the link to the video. Canvas course content is another type of resource that you might want to cite in your paper, and this is content from within your course. So we have a way to cite this in APA where you will include the college's name, so in our case, Eastern Gateway Community College, and then the year, month, and date of when this content was uploaded / created. However, if this is not included in Canvas, and frequently it may not be, you can include n.d. again, standing for no date. You can put the title of content in italics, and then the file format in brackets. So the file format might be something like lesson content or PowerPoint slides, a Word document or PDF video, whatever type of file is from your course, you would put that in brackets. And then you would put the word Canvas and a URL to that content. So you can see in our example that we have, this is lesson content that's called Types of Learning Styles. And then we have a link to that content. So this is a good one to refer back to if you want to cite something from your course. Now that we've covered how to cite some common types of reference citations, we're going to take a look at how to cite these within the text of your paper. These are, of course, called in-text citations. We also have a link here to Purdue OWL's in-text citation guide, which is a great, very, very extensive resource on how to create in-text citations for different types of sources, or if you might be missing certain elements of a citation. So here are the basics. In-text citations are meant to point your reader to one of the citations in your references page. For APA, you will generally follow the author date method of in-text citation. So you'll include the author's last name, comma, year of publication, and you'll enclose those in parentheses. Here's an example of an in-text citation when you have one author. We cited this source before. It's that Climbing the Literacy Ladder book by Beverly Tyner. For this source, our in-text citation would be Tyner, 2019. And you can see that all that information we need is just right at the beginning of our reference citation. We have our author's last name, and we have the year of publication, 2019. So there's our in-text citation, and we're going to see how we would put this in a sentence. And we'll see that just a little bit later on. Here's an example of an in-text citation with two authors. So what if we are creating that in-text citation? We have this source that we cited before by Stewart and Brown, and it's that simple. We would just put Stewart, ampersand, Brown, and then comma, year of publication. It's a little bit different when you have 3 or more authors. So luckily, you do not have to list out all 3 or more authors in your in-text citation because that would get very long. So instead, what you will do is take the first author's last name, and then you put the phrase et al, period. And this stands for and others in Latin. And then you would put comma, year of publication. So instead of listing out Allen, Stevenson, and Wang, instead we would just put Allen et al. 2021. Now we're going to look at some examples of sentences and how you would include these in-text citations in sentences correctly. So we're going to look at how to include it at the end of a sentence, in the middle of a sentence, and after a direct quote, because all of these are formatted just a little bit differently. So before we begin, it's important to know what paraphrasing is. When you are paraphrasing, which is writing something from a source in your own words, then you can include your in-text citation at the end of a sentence. So let's say that I read this book by Beverly Tyner, and I really wanted to use this idea from it, but I wanted to also put this in my own words and fit it in with the flow of my paper. So I wrote this sentence, and it's based on Tyner's ideas, but it's in my own words. And that's when I put my citation at the end of the sentence. So I have my sentence, and then I plug in Tyner, 2019 within parentheses right at the end. Notice how the period comes after the parentheses. That's really important to remember. But this indicates to my reader that this idea is from this work. Now you can also include your in-text citation within the middle of a sentence. So this generally happens when you use the author's name or the creator's name in your sentence. So you would then include the year of publication in parentheses as your in-text citation directly after the author's name. So the author's name and the year of publication should be nearby, close to each other. We have Tyner asserts the basis for fluency, and then I write out my idea. This is still in my own words, it's still paraphrased, but this time, because I put Tyner, the author's name, in my sentence, I don't need to put Tyner in my in-text citation again. That would be redundant. So instead, I just put that year right after the author's name. Is one way better to do it than the other? No, not necessarily. It's good to vary how you are including your in-text citations. So use a combination of using the author's name in your sentence, of instead just using an idea and then putting the full in-text citation. Both of those are totally valid, great ways to cite things. Now, sometimes you will want to use a direct quote. If you want to use a direct quote, then you do need to include the page number. So this is different than when you're paraphrasing. For example, this is a direct quote from that book, and I need to put the author's last name, comma, year of publication, comma, and then the page number. And the page number is formatted with 1P, period, and then the page. So this allows the reader to go to that exact page of the article or book, and they can see the surrounding context around this quote, and they can read more. You can also do kind of a combination where you would put the author's name and then a phrase like writes or says or something like that. And in that case, you would put the author's last name followed by that in-text year of publication within parentheses, and then you would put the page number at the very end after the direct quote. And you can see that the period for the whole sentence is still outside of that parentheses. So hopefully that is clear. And it does help to have a little introductory phrase when you include a direct quote, or at least have the sentences around that direct quote really tie in with the direct quote instead of just, tossing in a direct quote out of nowhere. So that's where phrases like the author writes or something like that can be very helpful. So there are a few other rules for odd scenarios that I'm going to go over briefly here. If you have two sources by the same author that were created in the same year, then you should use lowercase letters like A, B, and C next to the year for the citations on your references page and your in-text citations. So the reason for this is because if we did not put these little lowercase letters, when you would cite these in the text of your paper, it'd be impossible to differentiate between them, right? Because both of these sources were by an author, Engel, S. And if Engel wrote both of them in 2022, then it's impossible to tell in the text of our paper, am I talking about macroeconomics or am I talking about microeconomics? So it's really to be able to point the reader to one of these specific reference page citations. So our in-text citations would be Engel, 2022A, and then Engel, 2022B. And this doesn't come up that frequently. It just is something to keep in mind if you have two sources by the same author and both of them were written in the same year. Generally, you might have sources by the same author, but they're written in different years, and so there's no need to do this. So that was our one kind of weird rule. But in conclusion today, we have talked about APA style and the standards regarding some styling and formatting needs. We have our references page, which should feature that hanging indent, double spacing, and citations in alphabetical order. We looked over a sample paper together to see those formatting rules. In addition, we talked about in-text citations. That was citing text or citing sources within the text of our paper. And then we had our reference citations, which included more elements, right? Those were our sources included in the reference list at the end of our paper. So on this slide, I have some helpful links to our EGCC writing guide, to Purdue OWL resources. We have that APA formatting YouTube video that I mentioned, and that's the one that shows you how to do the hanging indent, double spacing, etc. We have APA styles, little note about paraphrasing, and we have a link to our YouTube channel, which does have some past workshops and some past things that might be helpful, as well as some MLA type things, which we have a workshop on, I believe, next week. Yeah. Finally, we have a link here to make a citation help appointment with one of us librarians. We do encourage you to create one if you're really struggling with your citations, and we can help you review citations you've created. We can help you create citations from scratch and help you with the formatting in Microsoft Word. However, we do not review or proofread research papers for grammar. And so if you need a writing tutor to help with the actual writing of your paper, then you can visit the tutoring website, which is linked there. At this point, I'd love to open up the floor for questions. You can type them in chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question. I know we covered a lot of ground today, and we will be sending out a recording too if there's anything you want to go over again.
Yeah, I have a question really quick. What about, and maybe I missed it, so I apologize if I did, but information that you get from websites that are not necessarily articles?
Yeah, so I did go over earlier, and that's totally fine. I don't mind revisiting it real quick, but when you're citing a web page that is not necessarily an online article, let me go back to my screen share real quick. So our website that I was showing as an example is this ALA policy manual website. And so from this is a website for the American Library Association. This is not an article per se, but a web page. And so we would just take the title of the web page, and it could be any of the pages on this website. Like we could be citing from here, and we take the title, the top part, awards, grants, and scholarships or whatever, and then we look for the date of publication. We would use our organization as the author's name because we don't see like an individual author who wrote this content, right? So that would take the name of, or the place of the creator slot. And then we have, on some web pages, you might find a cite tool. This one's a little bit nice in that way, so you can find the date of when this was published. However, if you can't find that date, you can put n.d. for like no
Okay, so that kind of goes along with my question then, talking about the college catalog as an example. So like the college catalog from EGCC, that would be an example of this then, and anything
Let
that's
me
not
go back to
specific
my slides real quick here, web page or online article. So here you can see like the Eastern Gateway Community College catalog would be created by Eastern Gateway Community College.
Okay.
So the organization name would start off there. If you can find when the catalog was published, like somewhere in the catalog, you can include that year, month, and date. If it's not included in the catalog, you'd put n.d. Then you'd put the title of that, which would be EGCC catalog, however it's listed on the website. And the site name, we only include the site name though if it's different from our organization name. And the website you'd find this on would be Eastern Gateway Community College's website, so you wouldn't need to include the site name. Then you'd include a direct URL to the EGCC catalog.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, you just copy and paste that from the top bar. Any other questions? Yeah, if no one else has any other questions, we'll be sure to send out this recording to you all so you can revisit sections of this. But we hope this gave you a good introduction and that writing your paper now and it's citing everything will be a little less overwhelming. But you can, of course, always reach out to us via email, which is libhelp. I'm going to type it in the chat, libhelp@egcc.edu. That is the fastest way to email and get an answer. So any citation questions, feel free to use our email and a librarian will get back to you ASAP. So thanks everyone and have a great evening. And we hope to see you at future workshops.